afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Future TV, wherever in the world you're watching us from. I'm Lynn Tamim, and these are today's top stories. The 18 Lebanese survivors of the Indonesia ferry sinking arrive in Lebanon. The team of disarmament inspectors in Syria begins the process of destroying the country's chemical weapons. And the U.S. arrests Anas al-Libi, a long-hunted Libyan al-Qaeda leader. The 18 Lebanese survivors of the Indonesia ferry sinking have returned to Lebanon. These survivors arrived at Beirut's international airport, where they were received by a number of officials, including a number of politicians from Akkad, where the majority of the victims hail from. One of the surviving asylum seekers told reporters they fled Lebanon because they could no longer find jobs and a way to make a living, but now they were forced to return to the country. He's called on the government to cater for their needs and to provide them with jobs. Another survivor reveals that he has left Lebanon because of the current political situation. A wanted suspect has been killed during a shootout with an Internal Security Forces Intelligence Bureau patrol in Beirut. Reports say the shootout broke out between the patrol and two suspects wanted on charges of theft. The incident took place near ABC Mall in the Ashafiri area. The victim was identified as Mustafa al-Yafufi. The other suspect, who was not identified, also has a record of firing at ISF patrols. Voice of Lebanon Radio later confirmed that Yafufi was killed in a chase near the residence of Telecommunications Minister Nicholas Sahnawi. A team of disarmament inspectors in Syria have begun the process of destroying the country's chemical weapons and production facilities. A source in the international mission says members of the team from the UN and the Hague-based Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons have left for a site where they are beginning verification and destruction. Today is the first day of destruction, in which heavy vehicles are going to run over and thus destroy missile warheads and aerial chemical bombs. Officials couldn't confirm what specifically was destroyed, but said that by the end of today, a combination of both weapons and some production equipment will be put out of order. UNESCO reiterates calls to safeguard Syria's cultural heritage and take all possible measures to avoid further destruction. UNESCO has been raising awareness and sharing information about the status of the country's heritage, notably its 6 World Heritage Sites, important archaeological sites, and movable heritage, including museums and other collections. Take a look.
The Syrian legacy of historic cities, archaeological sites and museum collections constitutes a unique cultural heritage for Syria and for the entire world. This heritage is a key element of Syrian identity and unity, as well as for the social cohesion of the country and an important asset for its economic development. The tragic events occurring in the country have resulted in significant damage to Syrian cultural heritage, leading to destruction, illegal excavations and illicit trafficking. There are 10,000 archaeological sites in Syria, spread everywhere in the country. Violence is spreading in many regions. The challenge is how to stop the danger. Illegally excavated objects can be taken out of the country without possibility of being identified. UNESCO launched a comprehensive strategy in response to the current crisis. The 6 Syrian World Heritage Sites have now been placed on the list of World Heritage in danger. In February 2013, a regional training was organized by UNESCO in Amman, aimed at assessing the situation of the Syrian cultural heritage and proposing a plan of action.
It's our moral responsibilities as international organization, but also as international community, to look at the situation of Syrian cultural heritage and help our colleagues in Syria to fight the illicit traffic.
The training was supported by the Swiss Federal Office for Culture and attended by regional and international stakeholders. The plan of action launched by UNESCO and its partners responds to the present situation and paves the way forward for a recovery scenario by actions aimed at improving regional and international cooperation.
We want to create a net of professionals who can act in crisis time, knowing exactly how to deal with negotiation need?
Really, three ways in which we can do that. The first is through the transparency of the auction process itself. Secondly, through robust due diligence processes, which we have in place. And thirdly, through careful cooperation with the organisations who are involved in that fight.
Further, raising the awareness of the local communities and engaging them in protecting their heritage will be a key step to complement this effort.
When the community feels that the cultural monuments and the objects are part of their identity, then they relate to it in a different way and be the ones to defend their own heritage.
Mutual support and cooperation is the only way to protect the Syrian heritage. We need your help and support to do this. So let us come together to ensure we can pass this legacy on to our children and to their children after them.
Moving on to Egypt, authorities have warned against anti-army protests when the country celebrates the 40th anniversary of an attack on Israel, saying the protesters will be regarded as agents of foreign powers. The warning comes in response to calls by the Muslim Brotherhood for fresh demonstrations during the day. Brotherhood supporters have been staging protests against the military coup, which toppled President Mohamed Morsi on July the 3rd. Besides the Brotherhood, supporters of the military have also called for rallies today to mark the anniversary of an Egyptian attack on Israeli forces in the Sinai during the 1973 war. But Interior Minister Mohamed Brahim says security forces will not tolerate attempts to block roads or spread chaos. An Egyptian military court has released an award-winning journalist after giving him a 6-month suspended sentence for endangering national security by spreading false information in his coverage of operations against Islamist militants in the Sinai Peninsula. Ahmed Aboudra's lawyer called the lighter's sentence an attempt to diffuse criticism over the 38-year-old journalist's detention while still serving as a warning against challenging the military. And still coming up, divers begin the recovery of dozens of migrants' bodies off the coast of Sicily. Stay with us. Welcome back. U.S. forces are said to have captured an al-Qaeda leader in Libya linked to the 1998 bombings of the U.S. embassies in East Africa and wanted by the United States for more than a decade. A U.S. official identified the al-Qaeda leader as Nazir Abdul Hamid al-Ruqai, known by his alias Anas al-Libi. He was seized outside his home in Tripoli after dawn prayers, but sources say the operation inflicted no casualties. Al-Libi is believed to have returned to Libya during the 2011 civil war that led to the ouster and killing of former leader and dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Al-Libi is on the FBI's most wanted list with a $5 million tag. He was indicted by a federal court for his alleged role in the bombings of the U.S. embassies in Tanzania and Kenya in 1998, in which more than 250 people, were killed. Iran has arrested 4 people suspected of trying to sabotage one of its nuclear plants. This is according to the head of Iran's Atomic Energy Organization, Ali Akbar Salehi, who says officials had monitored and then arrested a number of saboteurs before they could carry out their plan. The source adds that some sabotage activities by several people have been uncovered some time ago at the nuclear plant, but authorities let them continue their activities so as to gather more information. The source did not identify which nuclear site they were planning to damage or when those detained were arrested. And now for news around the world in brief. 15 people have been killed in Iraq in a couple of attacks north of the country. 2 suicide bombers have detonated explosives-rigged vehicles at a police station, killing 5 policemen. The blast also occurred near a primary school, killing 10 children. The attacks come a day after violence, including an attack on Shiite pilgrims in Baghdad and a suicide bombing at a cafe north of the capital, killed at least 73 people. Divers have begun the recovery of dozens of migrants' bodies from a boat that sank last week off the coast of Sicily, Italy. Survivors say about 500 migrants were packed onto the boat, which caught fire and capsized on Thursday. More than 200 are still missing. About 100 bodies have been recovered, and authorities say many will never be found. Among those rescued were 54 women and 57 children. China is on its highest alert for Typhoon Fido. Tens of thousands have evacuated as weather authorities issued a red alert for the storm, which is expected to slam into the country's eastern coast as early as tonight. Due to increased winds and rising tides, floodwater submerged the wharves and streets of Shasheng, a town in the city of Fuding. 200 years after his shocking creation, Dr. Frankenstein's creature, Adam, still walks the earth. But when he finds himself in the middle of a war over the fate of humanity, Adam discovers he holds the key that could destroy humankind. Check it out.
Frankenstein, the rumors are true.
I was given life 200 years ago. I am like none other.
You have strength and speed and stamina, far beyond that of any human. You could use those gifts in a war that you are already a part of.
I go my own way.
You cannot save the human race. Nothing can stop their demise.
Come with me. There's an entire army of monsters like me. Tens of thousands of them. It could mean the end of all mankind.
And saw darkness.
I'm a monster.
You're only a monster if you behave like one. Frankenstein must be destroyed.
Will surely damn you.
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. The 18 Lebanese survivors of the Indonesia ferry sinking arrive in Lebanon. A team of disarmament inspectors in Syria begins the process of destroying the country's chemical weapons. Finally, the U.S. arrests Anas al-Libi, a long-hunted Libyan al-Qaeda leader. Those were your weekend headlines from Future Television, live from Beirut. I'm Leila Tamim, wishing you all a very nice evening.